Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is happening in the stars above. For today, July 23rd, it's Thursday. Can't believe it. The week is just flying by, and it's really good to be here with all of you once again to share what is happening in what is a very quiet week. I like it. Right? I like the quiet. I like the idea that we can, focus our energies on something different than the crazy things that happen around us. Today's a day for going with the flow. That is the title of today's show. And essentially all we're dealing with today is the moon in Virgo, which gives us that opportunity to get down to business, to get to work, to get things done. And also we're dealing with just a few, like 3 different transits of the moon to planets Uranus, Mercury, and Venus. And it's only the Venus one that's a little tricky. And the Pleiadian-Earth energy of the day is all about going with the flow and shining a light in those dark places. So I got to ask the question of everybody, how are you doing after yesterday's chat about the ascendant? Did you find that you had more questions, or did you have something that, came up for you in looking at your own chart? Let me know, because I would love to be able to answer questions, and you can just type those into the chat and we can get to that. In the meantime, let's start with our moon today, having been in a long void, of course, until yesterday afternoon. Now she has popped into a new sign, and that new sign is Virgo. In fact, as I awoke this morning and did this chart, she was in, she was at 8 degrees of the sign of Virgo, which is where my natal moon sits. So it's like a new sort of moon for me today. So maybe that's like this good energy I'm feeling. The idea of flowing, going with the work day. Virgo as a sign rules our working life, right? As a natural ruler of the 6th house of work and service and health in your astrology chart. She is the one that takes us into this awareness of who we work with, where we work, the environment that we work in, and how it is that we want to show up in that environment. And in Virgo, we have our daily routine, the to-do list, right? The things that we have on our to-do list. And also then everything to do with our work environment. So maybe your desk, the tools of your trade, the place in your house or in your office that you actually work. So maybe with today's emphasis on cleaning and purging and detoxifying, it might be a great day to, clean up your workspace. Yeah, Janet, listen to that one. I have you can't see it, luckily, but there's a mess on my desk here, as I've had several different projects that I've been involved with, which require different books and different things. And so it's been kind of funny. So health also is a focus with the moon being in Virgo, where we're focusing on the physical body and exercise and healthy routines, those kinds of things. And then as well, alternative healing. So when we're dealing with Virgo energy, we're often looking at ways in which that we can put together a holistic approach to our healing and to our health and to the way that we work with our bodies. So seeing our bodies as more than just, something's going wrong with my wrist, or something is, wrong with my head. I have a headache. It's about all of the ways that we can look at that and determine what is the source, what is the cause. So taking that, stepping back and looking at it from a more holistic viewpoint. So Virgo, of all the signs, I think, is really one that wants to purify the environment, looking for the toxins, whether it is on the physical, mental, emotional, or the spiritual level, and releasing ourselves from that in order to, have a more perfected place of work. And while we're speaking about perfection, we have a lot of ability with the moon in Virgo to analyze, to critically think about, to discern what is right for us, what is not right for us. But it can also get us into analysis paralysis where we're overthinking things. So we want to be able to critically think. We want to be calm in a crisis if one should erupt in your life. We want to have a plan and take that step-by-step approach. Virgo, after all, is an earth sign. So we have, an affinity to all of those planets that are in Capricorn that are wanting us to take that stepwise approach to the things that we do in our world. But we do have that possibility of overthinking, overanalyzing, over-perfecting, and then being overly critical of ourselves or of others. So we want to be super careful about that judgmental or critical way that we might interact with other people and with yourself, because this isn't just how we might be critical of others, but it could also be how you're beating yourself up if somehow you're not getting things done or things aren't working the way that you planned. Even the smallest little thing that you beat yourself up for adds to a feeling of being judged and guilty and all of that. So we want to be able to let go of that. We want to watch out for anxiety. And this anxiety is typically coming from a place of our being able to analyze things to death and looking at all the ways in which things could go wrong instead of the way that things could go right. So we want to be able to focus on all of the things that could go right. We don't want to, I call this contingency thinking, where we have all of these things that could go wrong and a plan for how to deal with that. And then the thing that you didn't think about does go wrong, and now your whole world crashes apart. So we want to be careful of overthinking, getting too much into the mental process, and taking ourselves into an anxiety or an anxious state. Don't want to do that. And we also don't want to play the blame game. We don't want to play the victim game. Virgo and Pisces across that axis in a chart, we have a lot of that potential for diving into the victim energy or blaming situations in the outer world or the people in our life for whatever it is we feel our failings are. So we've got to watch that we don't get into that blame, shame game. And in the body, Virgo rules the digestive system and what we would call the assimilation of nutrients and water and whatever it is that you're taking in. And of course, that's also a model for what are you taking in your outer life. So as within, so without. And in a day like today, maybe you're focusing on your solar plexus and what you're feeling in your body, what you're feeling in your emotional field, and being a little more practical and pragmatic in the way that you approach things in your life today. The intestines, which are also the part of the body that absorb, right? That all of the cells that line the small intestine and to some extent the large intestine have a job. Their job is to absorb the nutrients, the waters from the food that you've taken in that's been digested through the stomach. So it's the second line of defense. And it is the digestion that Virgo rules. So today, maybe watch what you eat. Make sure that what you do put in your mouth, into your stomach, is more pure, because otherwise maybe some digestive disruption can occur. Okay, so I'm going to go check over here. Oh, I see Ursula. Good morning. Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel. I'm not sure where everybody else is this morning. I'm thinking I'm sort of in the twilight zone. I had that feeling when I logged in this morning that somehow I was in the twilight zone. But good to see you two ladies out there. And if there are people out there listening and you had questions about what we talked about yesterday over the Ascendant, maybe go to my YouTube channel at Living Astrology on YouTube and, type in your question for me so we can talk about that. Now, as I said, the moon in Virgo today is making 3 different aspects or relationships to planets today. One is a trine to Uranus, a sextile to Mercury. Both of those indicate a sort of affinity for one another. So a good flow and exchange of energies that are positive and moving it well together. while the third one is a square to Venus, and that one presents us maybe with a little bit of scritchiness in the day, one of my favorite words, where it's that, scratchy, itchy feeling that you just can't like get taken care of. So that will be Venus. So let's talk about the trine to Uranus. And you know that Uranus is a planet of awakening, of surprises, of shock sometimes. And he is sitting in the sign of Taurus, a sign that rules our values, that rules our money, that rules in some way, Taurus, our relationships to the earth and to the physical realm. So today is a great day. Before I say that, Uranus also acts as a bit of an awakener, right? An explorer, sort of, that takes us into new realms, that liberates us from old thoughts, from old patterns, from old beliefs. And with the moon, we're looking at the possibility that we can explore the new. What's new to us? What's revolutionary? What's out of the box thinking? And exploring that with your eyes wide open, sort of with an expectation of wonder and what the magic might be that will happen if you move outside of that comfort zone. Taurus really likes comfort zones. Virgo, an earth sign, also does. So there is the possibility today of, maybe shaking things out a little bit. Now, in human design, Uranus has been sitting at the gate 24, which is on the Ajna, reaching up to the gate 61, where we have the planet Jupiter and the planet Pluto. And soon here, also Saturn will be sitting back at that gate. And the gate 24 on the Ajna is a rationalization gate. This is part of the logical system, the understanding circuit, we call it in human design, but it's really about logic. And the gate 24 is trying to put into perspective the psychotic and magical, the awe-inspiring, and the mystical energy coming in through the head center down into the gate 61. So it's sort of a thinking gate. And so Uranus here is maybe moving our thinking into new territory, right? Looking at things in a different way causes us to think things in a different way. And we all may be very much thinking a lot these days in our minds, thinking a lot. So instead of forcing the thinking to go down the lines of what's negative, maybe going down the lines of what's positive, what could be, what's the magic in all of this. Even looking at the world and its craziness right now, what's the magic here? What's the wonder in all of this? And knowing that if there's the more dark side, there has to be the more light side, because in a dual plane as Earth is in, there is the duality, right? So what is the light in this? And looking for that and thinking about that, as opposed to just going down to the dark and going, oh my gosh, this world is in a problem, right? So look at it differently. So tap into wonder, tap into magic, and see with different eyes, perhaps. And now like an hour later, so that happens at 10 something this morning, my time. So 1 something for those of you on the East Coast. Then later, an hour later, then the moon comes into a sextile with Mercury. Mercury is in Cancer. And of course, the moon moving through Virgo. So we have a Virgo-Cancer connection. In a sextile, we have a 60-degree relationship between the planets, which means that they're working well. Remember, this is the gifts and the talents. They have an affinity for one another. They can see each other's point of view without letting go of their own point of view. And today then gives us an opportunity to work to understand something. Maybe it's to understand yourself. Maybe it's to understand something that's happened in your life. Maybe it's to understand something that's going on in the bigger, wider world. But today is our opportunity to take in understanding energy, but also to clarify and be more let's say, conservative in the way that you're thinking. And when I don't mean conservative in the way of, coming into this small space, but often when you have this revolutionary impulse going through with Uranus, and then we come to a Mercury in Cancer and Virgo, which are a little more conservative signs, we might think that we have to let go of a lot. and to make space for the new. So I want to make sure that everybody is really clear and understands what they're doing as they move forward in a step-by-step progression, and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Keep what's original and good and sustainable and worthy of moving on, and release the old. So it's about being able to really weigh your options, to be able to see clearly into your thinking before you make any big decisions and change something up in your life. Now, that Mercury is sitting still at the gate 39, which is the gate of provocation. The gate 39 sits on the root center, so it's a pulse. It is an impulse to endure or to persevere, in this case, to provoke and cause change. Now, provocation is usually in association with a spiritual development. So it's not like poke the bear just to see if we can get a reaction. It's about provoking someone to think differently, to see differently, provoking yourself to become more spiritual, more aligned with spiritual insights, or with spiritual leanings, or, see the world in an abundant nature instead of the more narrow conservative nature. So it's a really interesting gate when it shows up. It is Mercury. He's been sitting here for a week or so, as he's not quite up to speed yet, so he's not moving through gates at a good clip. But that is a gate that will cause us to grow, to expand toward spirit. Now, the square to Venus is Virgo to Gemini, the moon in Virgo, Venus in Gemini. So we want to watch for conflicting goals in our relationships. Seeing yourself in a relationship with someone where maybe somehow you guys have come to a point in your relationship where your goals are not the same. And without jumping into or out of the relationship or into a conflict, let's say, with that other person, what can you do to allow both realities to exist? And in that case, it's really about allowing the reaction energy to simmer, right? Instead of knee jerking and causing that fight, maybe be more quiet and just maybe shaking your head and saying, "I understand. We can agree to disagree," kind of thing. That's that energy. And the energy of Venus is moving into a new gate, and I find that really, here I am again. So that'll teach me to click on a pop-up without reading it. It was my computer wanting to restart. I didn't even read what it was. I just clicked on it, and of course that initiated the restart. So my apologies. Hopefully you guys will seamlessly follow here. We were talking about Venus today in the sign of Gemini and putting it in a square to the moon later on today. So this isn't this morning, this is later in the afternoon today, where we needed to watch for our conflicting goals in our relationships, where maybe you're pulling in one direction and the other person's in another direction, and the conflict that can come up from that. So rather than jumping into the conflict and getting into the squabbling, to wait for things to sort of simmer down, wait for the energy to shift, and then where cooler heads prevail, then we don't have conflict. Yay. But Venus has also moved into a new gate today, and I thought that was an interesting thing to talk about, because the gate she's moved into is a money gate, the gate 45, which actually is up on the throat center, and it's reaching down to Mars at gate 21, that is sitting on the ego center, or the heart center, the little red triangle. If you have it red, it might be white if you have it white. I wonder if I can pull up just the chart, the just now chart from Jovian, and then we can all see what the just now chart looks like, so you can graphically connect with that particular thing. So yes, okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I know we'll have to wobble it around a little bit in order to see it best, but here we go. So what I'm talking about is Venus now sitting at this gate 45, and we have Mars sitting down here at gate 21. So here's Mars and the planet Venus just above it. Now, Mars is only here for another day or so, and then he's going to move into a more tension-filled gate. But this alone, this channel alone, can create tension in your relationships. We have Venus at one end, Venus in her queen mode, right? This is the queen. This is the gate of the king or the queen. So Venus, the queen of finances, the queen of money, and we have Mars down here as the controller of money and of resources, time, people, energy. Same thing up here. So likely if these struggles pop out between you and someone in your life today, it could be a struggle between a power struggle over money and how finances should be, how money should be spent, or what things should be spent on. So this is part of the tribal energy. We call it the ego circuit, but it's part of the tribal circuitry. And this particular circuit or this particular channel is meant to be, it's related to the earners in a tribe and how they share of their spoils, if you will, with all of the tribe. Now, that might mean in a family now, right? Because we're not tribal anymore, so we're not necessarily having to share our spoils, our goods, our services with, the whole entire tribe, but your tribe may be in your family. And so on the part of Venus, she's up here at 45 and she says, all of this is my kingdom. And in the negative, this shall be mine, and I take the lion's share and I give you, the little crumbs. Mars at the other end here, though, says, well, no, that isn't going to work for me because we have these bills to pay. Money has to go here, et cetera, et cetera. So we have an inherent power struggle, and this can pop up today between you and another person. And even within businesses, this could be, how do we share of the resources? I noticed this morning a news story about Congress and the White House working to try to, I think it was about, extending pandemic benefits. I'm not sure, but there was some kind of financial thing that has been a squabble between them. And this does not bode well for them coming to any kind of an agreement because this is a power struggle. And might happen better tomorrow or the next day. But for right now, likely the power struggle will ensue, right? Who's going to be in charge of spending the money and where's it going to go? And that happens in our families, that happens in our corporations, that happens in our businesses that we work for. It happens especially in our homes. So watch for power struggles over finances. And note the difference in the human design chart right now, where for several days we've only had the head and the ajna defined. Now we have a split. The ajna is not connected to the throat here, but the throat is connected to the ego center through this power struggle. So a power struggle could be attributed perhaps to misaligned thinking here, right? Remember, this is a little bit of psychosis, and maybe we take something little that was a squabble and we make it bigger because it becomes a power struggle between you and another person. So watch for that today. The best thing to do in a conflict like that is to what? Breathe. Breathe, walk away, agree to disagree for the moment, come back to it later, maybe tomorrow when cooler heads prevail. Because otherwise this can get out of control and turn into a battle of the wills, a battle between, loving partners that just doesn't need to happen, or becomes an ugly mudfest slinging event when you're looking at the polarization in Congress and how they don't or do get things done these days. Okay, so stop sharing there. I'm going to head over to Facebook. I have a feeling I lost everybody because of that restart, and I apologize for that. So anyway, come back if you are out there to my part 2. And we'll see. I don't know. Maybe there's something going on in the atmosphere today. I'm not sure. The last thing I have to talk about this morning, and I knew today was going to be a short day, is the Pleiadian-Earth energy of the day is 6 illuminating. And illuminating energy is the earth energy of the day. And it is about Shwen in the Mayan calendar, which was monkey. So we have illuminating And then we have 6, which represents flow. So we have an illuminating flow or flowing illumination. The light is on. And this is a day to go with that flow, right? This morning, the whole computer issue thing here, going with the flow, just come back on as a second video, and we'll just go with that flow. I don't have much choice, right? I could kick and scream and throw a tantrum, or I could chuckle and laugh at the divine comedy that is our lives sometimes. This is a good day for movement. So if you have been stuck in a rut, this is a day for move. Remember, yesterday's 5 was the energy of change and the ability to see where transformation needed to take place. And today's that day to make the change, to move, go with the flow. This is a day for improvement as well, but without being that judgmental, critical voice in your head of self or others. So this is where we see sort of that connection to the moon in Virgo today. With the energy in Virgo, right, it's hypercritical. It can be very judgmental, very discerning in the positive. So we also have that as a caution today from the Pleiadian energy, which is to accept yourself for where you are, accept what is, without going into that critical or mental judgment that we have of ourselves or others. So it's about accepting what is in order to have harmony in your life instead of anger, upset, or conflict. So today, acceptance of what is. Illuminating energy, as I said, is Shuen in the Mayan calendar, which is monkey energy, which is kind of a humorous kind of look at the world. This is a day for humor, for curiosity, for creativity. It's all favored today. So laughter is the best medicine. And it is a purposeful bringing in of joy, perhaps, but there's also possible drama here. The symbol for this sign should be the drama, the theater masks, right? The one that's laughing and the one that's crying, or, showing the drama of life, because monkey energy can equally bring in the drama. Our goal is to lighten up, right? Today's the day to lighten up, see the illusion for what it is, shining a light into that darkness so that you can light it up and really see what the truth is. Wake up to truth, right? In the morning, how your alarm goes off and you turn on the light. Time to wake up, right? Time to see things more clearly, trying to, get the sleep out of your eyes. And humanity has been in a very deep sleep for a very long time, and it's time to wake up, right? We're waking up because our umbrella energy of the week is about transcending, right? Transcending the current conditions, kind of being able to ascend even and see the world from a different perspective. So we have the opportunity to wake up to truth, or we can stay entrenched in the old illusion. And how fun is that, right? The old, no. Be you, find your truth, live your truth. That is the main message of Shuen today. So all in all, we have a pretty good day, a day to get things done, a day to go with the flow, whatever it is that life throws at you, those curveballs. Be willing to stay with it and just go with it. I'm going to check back here. People did find me again. Amy, yay, she's back. Mimi, hello. Jackie, good morning. Destiny, good morning. Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel, not my circus, not my monkey. That's one way to look at it, but what is the monkey? Or do you want to just laugh with the monkey and all of his antics, right? Laughing with the monkeys. So I don't know if you guys heard me at the beginning of this second part of my morning show, but a pop-up came up and I didn't read what it said because I was getting intent on what I was saying, and I just clicked on it. It was me restarting my computer. It wanted to go through a restart. Normally I would have said no, but I didn't even look at it, and I suddenly was disconnected. Great. And then I had to wait for it to go through the restart process. But here I was again. And so let me just say what I was before when I started the first broadcast this morning. I was asking questions if you had any questions about what we were talking about yesterday in your ascendant. And, as you went through your day, did you have a moment to be able to look at that energy and to see how it's playing out in your life? And if you have questions, go ahead and put those in here. Debbie Tibbetts, yes, just humor, going with the flow. That is the deal of the day, going with the flow. And I don't know if any of you got to hear my broadcast last night on Angel Heart Radio, or Angel Heart Radio, which is my monthly talk with Annette McCoy, and down in Australia. So I went down under last night to talk about authority in human design. And because I'm done with the day's energy pretty early, I thought maybe I would go back through some of the key points that we talked about last night during her show, and especially because I know it comes on at 5 o'clock West Coast time. And that means, it's late for those of you in Europe, and it's, 8 o'clock at night for those of you on the East Coast. So I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of what we talked about. I'm looking for all of my notes from it because I had literally 7 pages of notes. Kind of crazy. Sometimes I get a little overly into the information. Now, authority in your human design is subsequent to your type and its strategy. So whether you are a manifesting generator or generator, your first primary goal in making decisions is to go with your strategy. And your strategy is about responding to what shows up in your outer world, not from what you think about or what you're praying about or meditation things come up. If something comes up in that state, then you're waiting for the outer world to catch up and say, yeah, go that direction, go with that person, do that. If you're a projector, then you're waiting for the invitation. That doesn't change with your authority. The authority is sort of your enhanced decision-making tool. So it's sort of you're waiting to respond to what shows up if you're a manifesting generator, or if you're waiting for that invitation, or if a manifestor, you're looking at that creative energy. If you're a reflector, you're waiting for 28 days. So, no matter what, it's a slow roll for you. And once that shows up in that outer world, or once that invitation is proffered, how is it that you decide, is this the right thing or not? Well, your strategy takes you so far, and then authority kicks in. And authority comes from below the neck, below the throat center. So the throat, the head, and the ajna, the throat, the ajna, and the head are not engaged as decision-making places. So only then the identity center, the ego center, the sacral, the solar plexus, or the spleen can really give you access to decision-making powers, if you will. So that's what I wanted to look at with everybody, because in the month before with Annette's show, we had gone into type and strategy. So we would go into then, now what's next? How do you decide? Once something's there in your outer world, how do you decide? I'm going to pause on that chat for a moment because I'm seeing some questions pop in here about the ascendant. Mimi says, ascendant, would love to know more about Aries rising. Also, maybe is Eris retrograde? Let's see here. Eris, where are you? Aries, Eris in retrograde. Eris retrograde influence there in the 12th house. Ooh, she is stirring up the subconscious waters for you, Mimi. If that's happening for you, then what's happening is any residue left in the recesses of your mind or of your psyche are being dug up and are being brought to the surface, so that you can, for one, stare it in the eye, any fears, any unconsciousness that's left there, knowing that you've lived a good chunk of your life and you've been working on these things. So it's probably not something new. It may just be the next thing, but it can be upsetting, and it can be, you even coming to some form of an aha about where it is that you've been spending your time, and, or, maybe a potential use for all of that energy of action that rather than it just kicking around in here, that can be put to use in the outer world as that energy crosses your ascendant. So ascendant energy is that rising sign. Aries is the first sign in the zodiac, and it's really that stepping out energy and stepping into something more than you can't stay dependent. You can't stay wholly independent either. You're looking more for interdependence and interconnectedness, drawing parallels and connections and lines for your life, and being able to release yourself into maybe some new revolutionary ways of being in the world outside of the fear field. Jackie, my ascendant is 29 degrees Leo. So most of Leo season lights up my 12th house and then crosses over my ascendant. Any guidance on working with this energy of the 29th degree? Well, the 29th degree of Leo happens to be my north node. So it doesn't sit there in the 12th house, although it is progressed to that 12th house for me. Thank you very much. And it is the complete facing of what it is that has stopped you from following your heart's desire. The rising sign at 29 degrees is really one that I had a great question that I asked last night. Had anybody heard of the saying WIFM, which is WIIFM, what's in it for me? And I know that sounds selfish, and I know that sort of sounds like, a not good thing to focus on. But literally, Jackie, this is for you to focus on. What is in it for you? Because if you're not connected from your whole being, from your heart center, then you're only half committed to these things in your life. So if you're looking for full commitment to something, then it has to be something that you're really passionate about, that you really feel a connection to, and not allow fear or lack or limitation to stop you from expressing from your heart's desire. It is almost a bit like having that noose around your neck from previous lifetimes where you're holding a part of yourself back because you're not really all into something yet. So what do you want to be all into, and head off in that direction? The south node is in my 12th house, by the way. Okay, so this is different. The north, your north. Oh, south node. Oh, definite past life connection then to why it is you don't feel good about following your heart, or what has stopped you from following your heart. And that really makes me think of persecution in previous lifetimes where things, every time you approach doing what you really loved, there's a body memory, a cellular memory of having been put to death for it, or chastised for it, or imprisoned for it in some way. So you're breaking out of a literal prison in this lifetime. Ursula, if time allows, what does Saturn in Aquarius quintile my Virgo ascendant mean? A quintile is always a special talent that you have. In this way, it would be bringing into reality, right? Saturn in Aquarius is looking to the future. There's a future orientation there, Ursula. So what are you taking from the future and bringing into the now, right? In a very practical way. So the practical application of ideals, the practical application of the what ifs, right? And the future, right? The cutting edge. So thinking out of the box, but bringing those ideas into some kind of critical form here in the physical world. Saturn, remember, is very boots on the ground. And a Virgo ascendant is also very creative energy, but wants that creative energy expressed in the physical. So having to take all of that take all that creative and inspirational energy and match it to something physical here on the planet. Jackie, wow, spot on. Thank you. You are most welcome. And Mimi, was that a good answer to your question? Is there more that you're looking for with that in a natal chart? I think it might be your natal chart. Not sure. But you can ask me more about that in a moment. Ursula, sorry, I missed that part. And do you have any thoughts about the number on the ascendant? 22 Virgo, do you sense 22 is the age of what guides me? Strange question, right? No, it is not a strange question, because I think we're always used to looking for the symbology of something that's happening. And numbers are things that we see as symbols, and 22 being a master number in numerology, it's a logical leap, right, to, I wonder what this means. But in astrology, the numbers are not the same as they are in other disciplines. So if we were looking at numerology, certainly 22 would take on meaning. But the number, the degree that anything sits at also has a meaning with a Sabian symbol attached to it. Or in our astrological mandala, it has a symbolic, there's a symbolic progression from 0 degrees Aries all the way back to 30 degrees of Pisces as we go all the way around through the 360 degrees of an astrology chart. So that degree does have some kind of meaning, but that meaning isn't necessarily attached to an age, the age that you are or something like that. So I hope that's helpful. And in fact, if we looked at 22 degrees, did you Virgo? 22 Virgo. So let's just look at it for fun. This is my astrological mandala book. And I opened up right to Virgo. How fun is that? And if we look at this, it is the symbol of a lion tamer, displays his skill and character. The keynote is the need to tame one's vital energies in order to fulfill one's destiny. We see here the development of the concept of training. The true aristocrat is the individual who is in complete control of his vital and emotional energies. At the spiritual level, this includes the overcoming of pride in one's strength and mastery, and the pride attached to an exalted status or social office, it says, but social status perhaps. This is the third stage of the 35th sequence of 5 symbols, oh yai yai. The meaning of this phase of development is traditional and evident. The whole process of social, ethical, and occult spiritual conditioning of the individual aims at the control of man's animal nature. The energies of this nature can be put to many uses. Implied in any successful process of taming and training is resoluteness and patience. So that degree of Virgo for you would imply that wherever it is in your chart by house, you would need to apply patience and a sort of stick with it, resolute, enduring, persevering attitude. So that's how we use the degrees in astrology. We pull out a book and we read about it. Because there's 360 degrees, I can't possibly memorize all of them. So, okay, Mimi, I'm glad that's answered your question. Joanna, you're back live or have been in hiding? No, I've been back live. I've been live. I've never not been live. I've been live. But this morning, I don't know if you're talking about this morning or because maybe you used to watch me on Facebook, but I transitioned from Facebook Live to YouTube Live because it's much more stable, except in the instance where I hit restart and inadvertently close down my broadcast for the moment and have to start again. So how many years? 5. I'm on my 5th season of broadcasting. I just started that after my break when I went to Oregon. So I'm now in the 5th season. And I literally have been on the airwaves since 2013, whether it was on radio or blog talk or in live videos. I've been talking for, 7 years. 7 years on Valentine's Day this year. It was 7 years that I've been broadcasting either through radio or video. So, and whether it was my own show or I was on another platform, I've been out there for a long time, Joanna. And I switched to YouTube. Gosh, guys, when did I switch to YouTube? Back in March, maybe? Maybe February even, where I switched from Facebook because I was just done with Facebook's shenanigans. So I came over here. All right, so in the meantime, while I'm waiting maybe for other questions, I'm going to go back to authority. How much time do I have here? It is 8:47. So authority, again, is our personal decision-making tool in alignment with our strategies in your human design that help you make decisions that are in alignment with your unique geometry, let's call it, your sacred geometry, right? Your way. And when you use your authority with your type and your strategy, then your life aligns sort of like by magic, right? Things just pop. They're happening easily, effortlessly, with grace. And we really know that our life, when your life is kicking and it's doing good and you're just going along, you know you are working your type and your strategy and your authority in sync with one another. When things are kind of like pulling teeth and there's reversals and there may have been something that was out of sync in the timing of using your strategy and your authority. So Joanna G, oh, Roseanne, I gotcha. Roseanne, good to see you. Oh my gosh, I haven't talked to you or seen you in so long. It's great to have you out there. So in your human design, there are 7 types of authorities. Now, I'm going to spend most time today on the solar plexus authority. We may have to go into other authorities as time goes on, because with 7 of them, as you can imagine, there would be a lot of talking. I did all that yesterday. If you want to hear the whole talk from yesterday, I did post it on my Living Astrology Facebook page. So you can go there and listen to the whole talk. But I think because the solar plexus is the one center that we are looking down at an evolutionary leap toward 7 years from now, 2027, that's the one that I really want to talk about. Hold on. Maybe I don't want to talk about it. So if you have solar plexus authority in your chart, it is going to look like, oh, let me bring it up and show it to you, because I did this entire, don't want to delete that. I did this entire presentation last night with, let's see, I need my desktop, and it was a file, and here we go. This is solar plexus authority. And I'm going to share my screen so you all can see it. Okay, now, this is an example of solar plexus authority. So in your human design, if this particular center is colored in, that means you have a defined emotional center or a defined solar plexus. And if it's colored in, it takes precedence over all of the other types of authority. So even though in this chart, there's sacral that's defined, if it also it's also got ego defined, it's got the identity center defined, and these are also authorities. But because this one is defined, it takes precedence. So always the solar plexus. And the solar plexus is one of the 4 motors in a human design chart, so it has energy associated with it. The energy associated with the solar plexus is a wave form. It flows. It has a peak, and it has a valley, and it has all of the points in between. And it means then if someone has this defined, they must wait for clarity over time before making big decisions in life. And I say big decisions. You could use it for all of your decisions, but especially those important ones. Getting into or out of a relationship, getting into or out of a job, relocating, to move or not to move, right? Also here for people that are contemplating a purchase like a house or a car, that's something that's expensive. You're going to use your emotional wave. You are going to wait for clarity over time, because that's how you make your best decisions. And all types except reflectors can have this kind of authority. So if you're a manifesting generator, this is the chart of a generator. If you are a generator type, a manifesting generator, a projector can have this, a manifestor can have this. It becomes your authority if it's defined in your chart. The only reason a reflector doesn't have the possibility of doing this is because a reflector has all of the centers open. There would be no colored centers at all for authority. So the key here for people with solar plexus definition is patience in making your big decisions. You're not spontaneous. This is not you going, yes, I'm going to buy that house. Even if it's in your outer world and your strategy says to wait for something to respond to, you're going to now sit with that for a little bit. You're going to check in with yourself periodically over the next 24 to 48 hours to see how you feel about that. Is the excitement for that house still there? Or has there been a change in how you emotionally connect with that house? I'm using house as just an example. And so you're looking for clarity over time. And if over 24 to 48 hours, you still find yourself in a sort of excited mode around that house, then it's likely the correct decision for you. And you can say yes, right? That's how you would come to that decision. And you also have to be sure that you understand you won't always have absolute clarity. because there's always going to be a little bit of that second guessing that's in there in the emotional wave. But if when you're checking in with yourself, you have a preponderance of feel good energy about something, or a preponderance of no, this isn't good for me energy, then you know that you've got your answer. And even though there may be other times when you're like, oh, maybe I should have done that, you likely made the right decision. So discernment is the key. How interesting today, Moon in Virgo, and we had an opportunity to talk about discernment. And here it is again, only in your authority if you have solar plexus power here. All types, I did tell you that all types can be have solar plexus authority except reflectors. Oh, and about 50% of the population is defined in the sacral, and then would in the solar plexus, and would have the solar plexus as their authority. So waiting for clarity can have an additional benefit. If you are emotionally defined and somebody comes to you and really wants you to be a part of their group, or come and work for them, or whatever it is, to buy that house, your holding back can make that person more interested in you, and it adds to your allure or the appeal that you have to that person. So waiting can really kind of boost up your appeal, your street cred, if you will. And whether or not you take the opportunity is based on the feeling that you have. But it's possible that the deal gets sweetened, right, by the person who really wants you to be a part of their operation, or for whatever it is that you want to get. So remember, it is, if it's defined or colored in, it's this color brown, gold, tan, and it would be, no matter what your type, it would be your authority if it is colored in. And the only ones, of course, that can't have that is the reflector. All right, so hopefully that is understandable for everybody. And any questions about that? I don't see questions. That must mean everybody understands, right? Tomorrow, maybe we'll go through a different authority. The sacral authority is the next most common. Sacral authority happens when you have a defined sacral and not a defined emotional center and or spleen. And that can only happen if you're a generator or a manifesting generator. So it's a little more specific to that type. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow, perhaps. Let's take a look at what's going on out there tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, the 24th. No big changes going on. We will be entering, when's the next void? We'll enter into a void tomorrow afternoon for about 2 hours. And then we will be into Libra energy as we go into the weekend. So tomorrow we'll be taking a look at the weekend energy, which is fairly quiet. And we will take a look at the moon. We'll do some oracle card readings tomorrow as well. And I'm feeling the need for, I'm not sure yet for tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but I feel the need for readings in which deck. And we'll take a look at maybe the next step in the authority here. All right, everybody, take care. Have a wonderful day. See you all tomorrow. Bye for now.